Tech giants vowing to fight aggressively after a landmark ruling found them liable and negligent over social media's addictive nature. Now, I spoke exclusively to Meta's chief legal officer, CJ Mahoney, after the ruling. Here's that conversation. CJ, great to have you on Saturday in America. I want to ask you about the big news Thursday. There was a $375 million liability finding in New Mexico. And then in the joint case with Google, it was a $6 million verdict finding. What's your reaction to the news?
Well, first of all, Kaylee, thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. We disagree with these verdicts respectfully. We think that they're vulnerable on appeal, and we're going to pursue those appeals aggressively. At the same time, we recognize that teen mental health is an important and complex issue, something we spend a lot of time on. We try to make sure that the teens who use our accounts have a good and positive experience. We're going to continue to do that, but we're not the only ones who have responsibility in this area. Parents have responsibility, schools have responsibility. Trying to pin all of this on one social media company or even the tech industry, I think simplifies the problem in a way that isn't helpful.
So, CJ, I want to present both sides of the argument. And the first side is that of the plaintiff. And I just want to articulate for the viewers who might have missed some of the trial. This was a former vice president of Meta, Brian Boland's testimony. And he testified that there was a 13-year-old user. If you have a 13-year-old user, they're of great value because they represent 77 years of potential data. Profit now, test later was what he described the atmosphere like. What's your response to the plaintiff's argument?
Well, that's not the way we think about teen usage at all. We want teens to have a good experience on our platform. The best way to, for us to have long-term users is if they feel good about their use. If teens see inappropriate content, if they don't feel good about the amount of time that they're spending on their platform, then the chances that they're going to stop using the platform at some point increase. And so that's absolutely not how we think about it, and it certainly is belied by the fact that we invest so much time in things like teen accounts, which actually reduce the amount of time that teens spend on our platform. But we did it because we think it was the right thing to do, and we think it's the best way that teens can have a safe and positive experience on Instagram.
So let me swing to the other side. And the Wall Street Journal editorial board came out this morning. Their headline was "The Social Media Shakedown Begins." And they went on to say that the verdict against Meta and YouTube is a victory for the plaintiff's bar, not for children, not for society. To that end, I was very struck by the statement that Mark Lanier made. He was the lawyer for the plaintiff in this. This is what he said after this verdict. Let's play it.
So in essence, they're saying we're going to take this young lady with social anxiety and double the amount that was given to her. And from that perspective, it's great. Now, if they had given $2 billion, that would be really nice for my curriculum vitae and nice for my bragging rights and my ego. But really, none of that's what's important here.
I just was really struck by that because we all have a heart for children, want to protect children. Here was allegedly about the children. So I'm not sure why the initial statement after this verdict was about a curriculum vitae and about an ego.
Well, it was a lot of spin by Mr. Lanier. He's very good at what he does, but what he does is he sues big corporations for large settlements. This case is about money. These cases were ginned up by the plaintiff's bar. They're coming after us because they think we have deep pockets. But the reality is that the claims are weak from a legal standpoint. And even in this case, I mean, I thought I was in the courtroom when Mr. Lanier asked the jury to give him billions of dollars in damages, in punitive damages against Meta. The jury came out after about 20 minutes and only gave them a couple million, probably much more than it cost the plaintiff's lawyers who are fighting these cases to actually try them.
Yeah, and we know those plaintiffs' lawyers take a lot of that money.
Yeah, at least 40% of the recovery.
Wait, 40%? So, in other words, this plaintiff here is going to receive very little. 40%, that's pretty high.
That's typically what plaintiffs' lawyers charge, is about 40%.
Interesting. I do want to ask this. So you do plan to appeal, as you noted. There are thousands of other cases out there like this. So what do we expect to see in the future? You appeal, and then these other cases are going to come?
No. Well, I think it's important to note, this was a 7-week trial. The jury deliberated for 8 days, which is really rare in a civil trial. And each of these cases have to be tried one at a time. There's not a class that has been certified in this context. So we just had the first case. As you noted, there are other cases, but they're going to be tried one at a time. And at the end of the day, we do not believe that our platform is responsible for the teen mental health crisis in this country. We have, on the contrary, we think we've done a lot to try to protect kids and ensure that they have a positive experience on the platform, and so we're going to keep fighting these cases. It's not going to be the payday that the plaintiffs' lawyers would like it to be.
So, CJ, there's litigation and then there's legislation, and there have been a ton of polls about social media. There's a Pew poll from 2020 that I'm looking at here, and it's 64% of Americans say that social media has a negative effect. But I bring up the legislature because there are things that the legislature could do. Is there any legislative solution that Meta is on board with?
Well, we're absolutely engaged in this issue. The thing that Congress could do, and we would urge them to do, is to require the App Store providers to share with us and share with others the age verification information that they have about the people who buy their phones and access the App Store. It's one of the big problems that we have in the industry. We don't know whether we ask people to self-certify their age, but we know the kids lie about that. We have models that try to predict age, but the best way to do it is at the point at which the kid receives a phone. In order to receive a phone, they're typically receiving it from a parent. A parent is in the loop somewhere. That's the best way to ascertain what the age of the user is, and then you can build controls into that so the parents can monitor not only their kids' use of Instagram, but kids use something like 40 apps a day in the United States. And in order for parents to have meaningful control over that, we need the app stores to get on board and provide that age verification information.
Yeah, and you have to put in your password there in the App Store. A final question for you, because I'm very intrigued by this as a mother. I know you're chief legal officer, so maybe you don't have too much insight into this, but Meta has actually averted at least 2 school shootings, one in Houston, unequivocally stopped a school shooting. That's what the FBI says. In Queens, you alerted the FBI within 88 minutes and averted a school shooting there. Tell me about your efforts there as a mom, something that I'm very interested in seeing.
Well, I would say as a parent of 2 teenagers myself, I'm also really concerned about these issues, and I'm proud of the work that the company does. We have people all over the world who are monitoring our platform. We apply advanced technology so that if we get signal that a user is contemplating harm to somebody else, if it's credible and verifiable, we report that to law enforcement, as you said in that case, 88 minutes from the time that we saw the post to when the suspect was apprehended with a gun.
Wow, very important private-public partnership. Kash Patel told us about that. Thank you so much for your time, CJ.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. Really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.